I'm looking at faces and smiles, and know that many of you are out there, and I just want to say, I'm so glad to be here.
Yes.
I'm so glad to be
Yes,
here in
yes.
person. In your new home. All right, joy. Well, this has been a challenging time in the world, and for so many people I love. I don't know what your experience is, but really intense, unusual things have happened to them in the past few years. I think our collective resilience has gotten low. So many ups and downs in the past few years have become exhausting. How much can a body, how much can a spirit, how much can an immune system take? Well, I don't know about you. I've had to be careful because at times I've started seeing things with very dark glasses. And of course, everything gets seen through those lenses.
Right.
And that perspective from that tomb, that can become my kingdom. That's not a kingdom I rule, though. Rick Hansen says, from moment to moment, the flows of thoughts and feelings, sensations and desires, and conscious and unconscious processes sculpt your nervous system like water gradually carving furrows and eventually gullies on a hillside. Your brain is continually changing its structure. The only question is it for better or worse? For as we know in unity, whatever we hold in attention has a special power to change our brain. Attention is like a combination spotlight and vacuum cleaner, he says. It illuminates what it rests upon and then sucks it into your brain. Okay. Last time I spoke, a few months ago, I talked about seeing things through a straw.
Right.
I often use this metaphor. It helps me. From the bottom of a well, the view as we enter a tunnel, narrowing our vision to very defined and limited boundaries. When we have tunnel vision, our kingdoms get small. Attention is like a spotlight, illuminating what it rests upon. In unity, we say, where my attention goes, the energy flows. In Qigong, we say, where my mind goes, Qi follows. Which means, if I'm in my world of sadness, or despair, or pain, it's so easy to miss moments that hold a gift. One that might be right here. Perhaps it's huge. Perhaps it's obvious. At another time it would be so obvious. Perhaps it's this little tiny gift. Maybe it's a glimmer, fleeting, but still something to remind me, to inspire, to expand my vision, and resurrect me, even if only for like one moment. Becoming more able to place attention where we want it, and more able to pull it away from what's bothersome or pointless, such as looping again and again through anxious preoccupations, mental grumbling, self-criticism. Hansen says that's the foundation of changing our brain and thus our lives for the better. But if our attention is directed by this, we are looping, so we are looping again and again through anxious preoccupations, mental grumbling, self-criticism. We're very limited in our ability to recognize a gift, to change our life, or at least to alter that moment for the better. Last November, I was feeling pretty low about a few things. And I needed to get my eyeglasses fixed. So I went to get them fixed. How's that for a metaphor, for a unity metaphor? I needed to get my eyeglasses fixed when my vision, in many ways, spiritually, was a little askew. So I went in, very jolly, warm guy, and he says, "Oh, hi, you've been here before." And I said, "Yes, hi." And he said, "Well, if you're coming next week, you'd have missed me. I'll be out for 7 weeks." And I said, "No." And he said, "Can you get to where I'm going?" And I'm thinking, I don't care. Just fix my glasses. One of my many ununity moments. Thinking, I didn't say that. Then he says, "I'm Santa Claus. Been doing it for 20 years. And you know what? He looked like Santa Claus. That's why I use the word jolly. Haley then shared some information. He's the American representative to the International Santa Claus Convention
holy cow.
in Denmark.
Oh.
Then he said American Santas are mostly required to have real beards. While in Europe, they still wear fake beards. Some of them cost $5,000, made of yak fur. And at some point, I accepted his invitation to engage. I finally let his energy in. I let his energy in. I started to ask questions. I found out he doesn't let any of the elves know his real name. In case something goes wrong, he doesn't want them yelling, "Hey, dog, the computer crapped out." Or, "Hey, dog, Silver Bells is in the back smoking. Should I drag his elf ass back in here?" He cared about the spell that he cast on kids. And he cast a spell on me. I left the store feeling energized, and I realized what had happened. Actually, I chose to make a specific meaning out of what happened. That's really what it was. I chose to make a specific meaning out of what happened. I chose to believe that the universe sent me Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Pretty literally. And that initially, my depression, my attitude was keeping that gift out. It was only because he kept on trying to engage me that I let him in. And when I did, something shifted. So I got my eyeglasses adjusted, along with my perspective, and thus the focus of my talk today. Today, I want to celebrate the spiritual truth that answers or gifts are available to us when we see with clear vision. It's the season of resurrections. Resurrections happen in different ways and over again in our lives. I need to remember that during these days. And that it happens when I shift from ego's perspective to that of spirit, even if it's only for a moment, and my thoughts go back again to feeding ego. I need to resurrect over and over. See, when I look back on my life, I realize what I've needed has been there for me when I've needed it. Not that it took away the situation. Not that it resolved the situation or the circumstance. Not that I didn't go back on the cross at some point. But someone was always there to help me view it with new eyes, with less despair, more resilience. Of course, I didn't always know that in the moment. Certainly not when I'm wearing glasses of fear, seeing through those tinted lenses of anxiety or doubt. I don't know that when I'm unwilling to remove my shroud of sadness so tightly woven by my thoughts, which keep me entombed by ego. My thoughts. As a friend once said, sometimes I have thoughts. That's not the problem. Sometimes I believe them.
Yeah.
Observing our thoughts, modifying, interrupting them, to seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness. That opens us up to experiencing miracles. That is, the miracle as a change of perception, a correction of how we perceive or think, of course, in miracles. For we can choose a perception that leads to resurrection, one that gives us strength, serenity, one that helps us respond with kindness to ourselves and to others, that is, as co-creators with Source. Or we can choose a perception, leads us back to resurrection, separation from Source. We have a choice. Perception rests on choosing. We looked at unity principle number 3 about the power of our thoughts. Well, guess what? Fear distorts perception. So our perceptions are not the truth. When did I learn they were? Well, in my family, it's a tradition. I'm not going to sing Fiddler on the Roof. Worry is a tradition.
Yes, it is.
And what is a tradition? It's peer pressure from the dead.
Oh, wow.
And when I am interpreting my current life from inside that world which was created long ago. I suffer, I hurt,
Wow.
I am removed from my divinity and from you.
That's a good one.
I receive corrections all the time and reminders of Spirit's presence in the midst of difficult times. Reminders of ways to reconnect once I've separated myself. You'd think by now I'd have learned that every thought becomes a prayer, but these times are challenging. Those grooves in my brain are deep, those patterns deeply wired. Neuroplasticity means we can change those patterns in spite of tradition. That those patterns in our brain, the brain has an ability to modify, change, and adapt to new neural connections in response to experience. Oh, and it takes ongoing practice. That's why I've come to Unity for 32 years, still practicing.
Right?
But like a path in the countryside, where originally there was no path at all, a way appears as people walk in the same spot again and again. So yes, I keep on practicing. I bet a lot of you keep on practicing. And we're creating deeper grooves in our brain. So let's talk for a moment that offered a gift. A chance to deepen those grooves and to shift from ego's perception to that of spirit, and thus a gateway to a miracle. Join me at 7-Eleven. It's 1990, South Arlington.
Yeah.
I'm 40 years old. Must need new batteries. Okay? I've been very depressed from a recent split and this job that I hated. But I recently discovered that coffee was a mood enhancer. I had not drinking coffee. It took me till 40 years. So here we are at 7-Eleven. I'm getting coffee to go to work. And there's always this friendly guy around the coffee machine chatting, welcoming, great mood, hanging out. I avoid him. He's weird. And I mean, it's 7 a.m. and I am not in the mood.
Right. Right.
Every day I go in for coffee. And every day I have a choice. Not to engage with him, but to engage with him. Do you choose door number 1 with suffering and despair behind it? Or door number 2 with perhaps something else behind it? Well, I chose door number 1. I went to Unity one Sunday and I heard if you keep on doing the same thing, expect the same result. Simple, right? So much of the stuff we say is simple, but so profound to me. Was it possible I was missing an opportunity? I decided on that Monday I would try door number 2. I made a conscious choice to at least jiggle the handle. No guarantee. I go to 7-Eleven. This time I go earlier, specifically to talk with him, to be around his energy, to let myself be around joy for a while without figuring out its motivation or judging it. So I chat with him. Kind of pleasant. And I'm focused on something else besides my despair and sadness. Becomes more distant. He's kind of delightful, sweet. Not a lot of work. And when I leave, I'm feeling lighter and powerful for making a choice to do something different, for choosing a new door, for not missing an opportunity, and for allowing myself to be interrupted by God. Mm-hmm. Now, even if it didn't work out, even if it was a lot of work, I made a different choice. I chose again. And I think there's power in choosing again, even if it doesn't have the desired outcome, especially at moments where we don't feel any power. You know what I mean? So I leave 7-Eleven, grateful for my new set of eyes, my new perspective with my coffee. There's a Senegalese proverb that tells us the opportunity that God sends does not wake up one who is asleep. My lens of depression had been so thick, it took me a few weeks to see that what was there at 7-Eleven was a gift. At our times of greatest need, when we're in tune with feelings, we might not see the gifts that are being offered to us. When we're sad, angry, depressed, anxious, we're indeed asleep, and we may not see the promptings of spirit. It's at those times that we need to open our vision to allow ourselves to be interrupted by God. To allow. For as someone said, we wait for God to bless us while God waits for us to accept the blessing. Isn't that nice?
Wow.
We wait for God to bless us. Well, God waits for us to accept the blessing. So during these challenging times, we may need to ask ourselves, what's being provided that I'm not seeing? That question has been helpful to me during these days. If we're so focused on our pain and asking Spirit to take away the pain, we may not even notice that Spirit has filled it with its presence, has provided a reminder to us of its presence. Because if we're busy going about our business of being sad, angry, hopeless, our business of being right, and wrapping our feelings around us like a straitjacket, how can we see the gift that's in front of us? Again, Rick Hansen. The bottom line, in terms of how we feel, are we happy? Are we sad? Are we effective? Are we lost in stress? How we are is fundamentally the result of what's happening in the 3 pounds of tofu between our ears. When we let that 3 pounds of tofu rule our kingdom, when we're hijacked by our hurt, fear, and shame, Tara Brach reminds us, our world gets smaller, and the more we lose contact with our heart, with our empathy, compassion, the more that creates separation, for we forget our connection to something larger. Something larger indeed. Like one another on the other side of the world, like Spirit. So, at your times of greatest need, what has been provided that you might not have seen? Perhaps in your life now, what is there you're not letting in to help you heal, soothe, to calm you, or help you to thrive? What blessing are you not accepting that may bring you some joy or some relief? A gift of light that might help you in the darkness. There's that story of the old man. I always make him into an old Jewish man. Tradition. And living out in the country with his son. And the son gets very, very sick. And he gets sicker during the day. And the old man prays to God, please don't let him die. He's my only relative. I'm out here in the middle of nowhere. I love this boy. And he believes he's hearing God's support and that everything will be well. Later that night, there's a knock on the door. Someone has lost and needs directions. The old man gives him directions. And then the visitor hears moans from upstairs and pain. And he says, well, is everything okay? And he says, oh, my son is very sick. And the visitor says, I'm a doctor. Can I help? And the old man goes, no, it's taken care of. The old man leaves, goes to the village. The visitor leaves, goes to the village. The old man wakes up the next morning, his son is dead. And he rails against God. You promised. You said you would help me. You said you would take care of this, that you would help me. And God says, you fool, I sent you a doctor. Gifts are not always wrapped the way we want them. Delivered the way we've decided is best. We have a preconception of what the miracle is supposed to look like, says Farini in Love Without Conditions. No, God, that's not the gift I meant. Let me help you with this. I know you're busy. My miracle isn't a doctor, not Santa Claus, or not a guy at 7-Eleven. It's more like this. You still there, God? Joel Goldsmith, instead of letting God speak to them, too many people speak to God. Tell, ask, direct, even command God. Our rigid minds know better, and that which differs in any way may not be acceptable, may not be viewed as a gift. You call this a gift? Yes, I know you parted the Red Sea for us to walk through. I wanted you to fly us over. You didn't take away my pain. I want you to take away my pain. And this is how I want you to do it. Well, maybe Source has filled it with its presence. But how can we experience that if all we focus on is our narrow expectation of what we asked for, how we want it, when we want it, and what it should look like. Perhaps, just perhaps, we need to align ourselves with Source instead of Source aligning ourselves with us. The miracle we ask for may not free us from fear, says A Course in Miracles. The miracle we ask for may keep us slaves. The Course then asks one of the most helpful spiritual questions I've read. Will you help me see what's happening now in another way? What I've started asking is, what miracle am I not seeing right now? What gift is present that I'm blind to right now? And to affirm I am open and receptive to the gifts of this moment. Open and receptive. Not always easy for me to be when I'm wearing my glasses of darkness. Depends on which station I'm listening to up here, which voice we've tuned into, and how high the volume is. The voices are strong. The devil, the angel. The wicked witch, Glinda. Those voices. Ethel Merman, Mary Martin. Lucy, Charlie Brown. Lucy. The problem with you, Charlie Brown, is that you're you. So what do I do about it? I don't pretend to know. I just point out the problem. Many of us have that Lucy voice. And at times it's thunderous. Well, just say no to Lucy. Change the channel in your mind to WGOD. No commercials, just you, fabulous you. WGOD, helping you sparkle 24 divine hours a day. By changing the station. That is, by changing our mind. Course in Miracles says, we have changed the most powerful device that was ever given us for change. So, at the beginning I asked, how much can a body or spirit or immune system take? We have inner resources, even in the midst of traumatic times. Even if it's as simple as being with this breath, with this thought. With this thought too. This thought I do not want, I choose instead. The resurrected Jesus, writes Kelly Brown Douglas, resurrected his disciples by inviting them away from the despair of death, that was the cross, into the hope of new life, that was the resurrection. The hope of new life. For me, that's what choosing to notice a glimmer is. Seeing something as a gift. New thought, new life. Even if I'm back on the cross later on. So this summer, I hope you'll allow yourself to see Santa Claus. Whether you're getting your eyeglasses fixed, getting coffee at 7-Eleven, touch heaven for a moment. And then go back to your day as a miracle worker. Blessings, my friends.
Namaste. Oh.
And now, if you would join me in a meditation. Get yourself comfortable. Eyes shut or half closed, whatever's comfortable, and let the floor or the seat hold you. And feel that support that you have. You need do nothing but breathe. And as you breathe, notice your breath. No need to change the depth or the pace of the breath unless you're moved to. And notice the thoughts that enter your mind. Just observe them. Let the thoughts come let them go. No need to attach or figure anything out now. No need to judge which are good or which are bad. Just let them flow by, gently moving like clouds. Our thoughts are prayers, so we know we are always praying. And so we take charge of what we're saying and what we're thinking. We seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness. For we know that God is always there. And that if I ever retreat into fear, I stay open and receptive to the gifts that present themselves at the moment. For God is always there. And now, in the silence, I become open and receptive to the gifts of this moment. And again, I notice my breath and my thoughts. Letting them gently guide me back to my space. As I open my eyes and am greeted by whatever I see. Knowing that there will be many more gifts waiting for me in this day, and knowing that I will welcome them all. And so it is.